Good morning and welcome back to Margin. This morning we're going to talk about whether a college degree is still worth it. This is part one of a two-part series, so let's jump right into it. So the topic of whether a college degree is worth it or not has been a hot button topic for the last few years, and mainly because of the student loan crisis and the surmounting amount of debt that people have due to going to school and getting that degree. And although I have seen this epidemic span across the United States and I've seen so many people just get trapped and buried by their debt, there's still value in a college degree. And I wanted to go over 4 key components as to why I believe that to be the case. And so today, really, I wanted to jump into this topic because I do have a bias in this area. This is an area where I do actually have an undergrad degree and I have a graduate degree. And I went through that process and went to a state school that was pretty low cost. And for me, when I evaluated earnings, unemployment, and looking at other aspects that are maybe intangibles that having that degree or going through that process affect, as well as a number of other areas, I found that it was important. It was something that actually added a ton of value, and I want to share why. So I believe you should always be educating yourself. You should always be finding ways to learn and grow and to perfect your trade. And through that process, that doesn't mean you have to go through a formal education process. And I understand that many people, do get degrees and don't use them, or they don't get degrees and they go to trade schools and apply that to be an electrician or some other, specific trade. But there are a myriad of different routes that people can take, and education isn't for everyone. It's not a route that I believe that everyone should take, and it should depend upon the type of person you are, how motivated you are in the career field you want to go down, and also what level of skill set you really need. Certain skill sets don't require a degree, don't require certain certifications, although people get those degrees or get those certifications, and unfortunately, they may or may not be actually applicable to what they want to go into. So part of the component of why I think a college degree is worth it is that it instills a level of discipline in people. And I've seen so many people step into college who were not very disciplined people, who actually gained a high level of discipline just from the standpoint of having to keep a schedule, having to follow a rhythm in regards to studying and test taking and memorization and all kinds of other aspects that will be applicable to the real world, to someone graduating from college and moving into their career field. And so with that, I believe that the intrinsic motivation of an individual, something that is inside them that gets them up in the morning and gets them going, can be fine-tuned through the process of setting in certain disciplines. And I've talked about this before in regards to the compound effect and the slight edge, a couple books that I would recommend you read. And those books helped me to identify, okay, what's important here? What's important for me to be focusing on, and how I can stack decision making so that it is compounding in a positive direction, so that it is improving my life. And through that, I believe that many people can actually grow a lot through the college experience if they're actually focused and they're not just partying, of course. But if they're actually focused, they can actually learn a lot from a standpoint of not only growing in your knowledge, but applying that knowledge to action. So I believe these decisions to continually grow, to challenge yourself, to step into something that may be difficult for you, allows you to set in place a compound effect of sorts. And I believe that those decisions that you make have a compound effect and can easily affect other decisions in your life, and can have a positive effect in ways that you didn't believe even possible. So although I believe that the awakened level of intentionality in my life, much of which came from my undergrad and graduate degrees and working through that process, I know that that's not going to necessarily motivate or excite other people. And so with that, it's important to know why you're going to school in the first place. There's too many people going to school just to go to school without a end in mind. They don't start with an end point in mind. And so they continue going to school, maybe changing up their degree fields, and at the end, they have a hard time figuring out, okay, why did they go to school in the first place, and was it worth it for them? But I think if you actually start with the end in mind, you start with that mindset of I'm getting a degree in a certain field that makes sense, it's in demand, it economically makes sense, I can afford to go to this school without going into student loan debt, and so on and so forth, then it shouldn't be shunned. It shouldn't be something that people shy away from. So the United States Bureau of Labor Statistics basically came out with a report, as they do on a regular basis, comparing different level of education, different levels of education based on their unemployment stats. And so with this, they compared those who were in the general workforce to those with a degree. And I believe those with a degree had some level of experience, but at the same time, when you looked at the figures from December of 2020, just a couple months ago, and you looked at the college grad unemployment level and the stats related to that compared to the general population, the college grads had a 4.7% unemployment rate. And those who were considered all workers had an overall unemployment rate of 7.3%. So there's about 3% difference there in favor of having a college degree. Beyond that, I went back and looked at prior years and looked back to May of 2010. Now, if you remembered that time frame, that was during the depth of the Great Recession. So with that, I wanted to look at, okay, what did the stats look like when there was more of a tumultuous environment than there is even today? And so what I found was that college grads with some experience had a 5% unemployment rate, which is actually lower than I thought it would be, especially at that point in the economy, versus all workers, which had a 9.8% unemployment rate. So the unemployment rate of college graduates was about half of that of the general working workforce. And so with that, when you're looking at those stats and you're looking at 3 to 5% difference delta between those who are the general population and those who have a college degree, based on those stats, that's encouraging data. So the report went on to say that from an earnings standpoint alone, that there was a 65% difference in the wages and earnings of those with a bachelor's degree versus those with a high school diploma. And so with that change, with that delta, that's a significant change. It's a significant increase from having a high school diploma versus a college degree. So digging into the figures even further, I found an article by the Social Security Administration who tracks lifetime earnings and the difference in lifetime earnings based on education level. And so with that, they basically said that there was a combined $765,000 difference in lifetime earnings with a bachelor's degree and a $1.3 million difference between those holding a master's degree. And so when you're looking at lifetime earnings, from anyone's perspective, that is a large figure. That's a large difference. So these three components are important to look at from a statistics standpoint, from a standpoint of looking at, okay, what is the unemployment rate first and foremost of those who have a degree versus don't have a degree. Second of all, looking at what is the annual difference typically between those who have a degree and who don't. And third of all, looking at the lifetime earnings. And I believe that education really is a long game. It should be something that is looked at from a standpoint of something that will pay dividends over years and not it may not be immediate. And I think for some people, they get discouraged because they go to school and they step out of school with a huge expectation, but then they realize there may not be in their field much of a difference between those without a degree and those with a degree. But you really have to look at the long game, and you have to look at your degree from a standpoint of, am I getting a degree in the right field that has that growth potential? And then beyond that, is it in demand? Because typically with a degree field that is in demand, you're going to see that spread more. You're going to see, more people hiring for those roles. Therefore, the entry level income increasing, based on the number, of course, of people actually applying and being available for those roles with their, the right education and experience. But beyond that, it's important to look at the long game. It's important to look at playing the long game when it comes to education. If this information is helpful to you, please do like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Thank you for your time. Enjoy your day, and we'll see you back here tomorrow.